Cheat Code. Hey everyone, welcome to Pickleball Cheat Code, the show for competitive pickleball players who are looking to level up their game. We focus on advanced strategies for experienced players, stuff only the pros know. I'm Brodie Smith. I'm a 5'5 plus player and a coach, and I'm here with a very, very, very special guest, the one and only Mr. Zane Navratil.
What's going on, everybody?
Zane is a 6.544 Duper rated player, a top pro, content creator, and a 13-time PPA medalist, just to name a few things. Today, we're going to be diving in and covering pro-level decision-making. And as we dive into that, we'll also break down like high IQ side of pickleball as well. Then at the end of the episode, I will be putting Zane in the hot seat with some rapid-fire questions since he just loves drama. So I'll be giving him some drama-related questions. And then if we've done anything to improve your game, please share the show with your pickleball community. Okay, welcome, Zane. Zane, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. Hey, stoked to be here. Thanks, Brodie.
It's great to have you on board. You obviously have so much pickleball wisdom. You've been crushing it on the content side of pickleball, been playing really well, especially even overseas in Asia, which was awesome to see. And, you know, you're at the top of your game and doing really well. So it's really exciting to have you on the show here to really talk about high-level pickleball play, the IQ side of the sport, and really break down those walls there. So it's going to be really fun to discuss this.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked for it. I feel like I don't think that it's my athleticism that's got me some titles. I feel like I'm a learner, and there's always something to learn in pickleball. So it's a nice little constant challenge.
So you're using your wits to win, not your athletic abilities.
I think so. How else would I have come up with the chainsaw and all that other stuff?
That's actually something we're going to get into. But before we do, like when, for example, just to kick things off, when you're coaching, when you're playing, what's the first thing that you try to get players to see differently about the court that immediately changes how they play? Like, what are you having people look at to see the game at a more dynamic level?
I guess if we're doing it fully foundational, I feel like there's two like extremely foundational pieces. First, I call it like extreme ownership. It's a book that I read by Jocko Willink. It's a phenomenal book. And so like what I see is it's easy to come up with excuses when you're on the court. If you're on the court, you own the outcome entirely. And if you think anything else, those little excuses will always creep into your brain and they'll always make you worse. They're a crutch. They're a huge crutch. And I see this especially when playing with like, you know, a slightly weaker partner. Like, oh, what can I do? They missed 10 balls. Yeah, but you missed 2. You shouldn't have missed those 2, right? So I think that's one mindset. And then also controlling what you can and can't control. Like I see so much frustration about, you know, okay, my partner's missed 10 balls. I can't control that.
Yep.
Like control what you can control. You can't control anything that your opponent does, but you can control 3 things, which is your preparation, your effort, and your attitude. Those things are entirely under your control. And if you do any of those 3 things poorly, you deserve to lose and you probably will lose. So 2 mindset things I think would be a good pillar for anybody trying to get serious at pickleball.
I feel like mindset is so important. I've talked about this a lot here in the show too, is how pickleball is just so much like chess, and then being able to have that calm mental side of the game and mindfulness when you're playing and being able to stay calm, stay present, and like you said, just focus on what you can control is what separates somebody that can have a super high ceiling in the game, but really hold them back. That ego side of the sport of, you know, really getting ahead of yourself can really hinder people. How did you develop that mental side of the game then yourself? Like, was this pulled from tennis? Is this something that you've always had, or is this something that you've had to kind of grow into the more you've been competing in pickleball?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my tennis coach taught me you can only control your effort and your attitude. I added on there preparation, right? Like getting a good warm up, all of that type of stuff. You can control that. And then, you know, like I said, I like to learn and adapt. And I think that's also probably a skill that you have to have. You have to be curious. You have to ask why. You have to not take no for an answer when you're on the pickleball court. And learn things for yourself. So I do think just being a learner and being curious is super, super important as well. How did I end up like this, I would say like, yeah, some
I mean, for some people, it's just
elements of
natural.
coaching.
You know, it's like it's just part of their personality is to be more calm and just forgiving. I don't know if that was natural for you, I guess is my point, or how much of that was learned.
Oh, sure. Like the calmness element. I think calmness is kind of trained to a degree. You could be like the chillest Callan Dawson kind of dude. And like, if you're in a place that you're not prepared for, you're naturally going to get some of those jitters. Like JW on the pickleball court is so calm because he's done all of this stuff before. He knows everything that's going on and he's in control. When you're in control, it's easy to be calm. And again, that just comes from preparation.
His ability to stay calm is something that I always reference when I'm coaching. And that's how I always reference people for improving their counters. Because for countering, people miss counters and they have awful reaction time because they try to play so tense. They get so excited. They're having so much fun. Their shoulders rise. And I always use JW as my quintessential example to go to. And I'm like, look at JW. He looks like he's taking a nap. How do you do that? How do you train that part of your game to be so relaxed at the kitchen when you get in these firefights and when things get hot? Like, how do you get to that level mentally?
I think it's a lot of repetitions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to say repetitions, but I do think another mindset thing is, trying to almost distract yourself. It's another tip from my tennis coach. It's another book that I read, The Inner Game of Tennis. Basically, like, you can think about a few different things that sort of help to activate that keep you focused on something, but not overthinking anything, right?
Gotcha.
We've all been in those situations where you're thinking about your dink technique or thinking about where the opponent is going to hit. We're all better when we're simply reacting and trusting the work that we've put in ahead of time on something. And so, when I'm on the court, I'm focusing not really on the ball. I'm focusing on breathing, or I'm focusing on like listening to all the sounds that are going on, or focusing on moving my feet. And I'm actually trying to intentionally distract myself from some of those other elements, because your active brain is so much slower than your reptile brain, your reactionary brain, right? Like when you have somebody across the net from you and you are and they're speeding up at you, if you have to think through every single step of, okay, I see their paddle face is going this direction. Okay, so I need to start moving my ready position over there to counter it, but that's going over the highest part of the net. So maybe they're going to change it at the last second. They've just hit 15 balls past you in that span of time that I just thought through that, right?
Yeah.
Those are things that you have to pick up, and you actually thinking about them actively when you're playing competitively is going to hurt you and not help you. After a point, super important. All right, what just happened? What do I look for next time? That's when you let your active brain go, or your analytical brain. But when you're actually on the court and in that competitive setting, you want to be almost in la la land. You want to be, of course, focused, but not focused on my dink technique or their paddle angle, that type of stuff.
Yeah, you have to find a way to get in that flow state and be relaxed. But if you were to recommend one book, you listed 2 books, what would one book recommendation be for somebody to get better faster at pickleball?
I'd probably go Inner Game of Tennis. It's all about getting you into the flow state. Yeah, I like that one.
I'm adding that to my Amazon orders. How long is it?
It's a short read. You could probably get it done in a day.
I love
it's
short
maybe
reads.
Let's see.
I was just hoping you were going to say like a 300-page novel, and I was going to be scared to read it.
Extreme Ownership is much longer. All right, so this is cover to cover. This is 134 pages, but it's pretty small.
Okay.
So
love it. All right, I'm ordering that. Thank you very much. That's huge, and that's something that I can definitely always be improving on in my game. So that's clutch. Okay, let's take a step away from the mental side in terms of, the mindfulness and calmness aspect, which is obviously really important to touch on. But one of the things that we talked about before when we were planning on doing this episode is you brought up like mental models and decision making. So I wanted you to define what you meant by mental models and like how you have your decision making built out when you're playing a match, going into a match, and kind of what that looks like, because there's a lot to tackle there, obviously.
Yeah. So what I mean by mental models is how you're going to make certain decisions. And so some of the most common ones are people ask me all the time in clinics that I do, like, how do you let the ball go? And that's like such an unbelievably difficult question because there's
Yeah.
probably millions of variables and inputs that I've seen over the years. So there is another one of them is patterns. And I guess you could even say, like, letting balls go is just a pattern. So really at the end of the day, it's how do you start to train pattern recognition? That can help you let balls go. It can help you understand where you need to be on the court. It can help you understand what you need to cover, what should be your ball, what should be your opponent's ball or your partner's ball, all that type of stuff. So at the end of the day, I think that it's all elements of pattern recognition. And how do you train that? Um, so what I try to do is I try to think about every single time a point ends, I think about how the point ended. I switch off my flow state, not thinking about anything, and I go into hyper analytic mode. I'm
Okay.
like, okay, so this person had a backhand speed up from the corner while they were moving, and they didn't get around it fully. So they probably couldn't go all the way back across court, which means that they had to either go through the middle or at me or through my line, something like that. I'm going to hyper analyze just the end of the point, think about that, attempt to store that somewhere in there in my brain, and then next time that situation occurs, even if that's something that's once a month that occurs, it's at least not the first time you're seeing something,
Hmm.
right? Let's take a crazy shot like the Kyle, for example, right? You know how Kyle will
Yeah.
have the backhand here and then all of a sudden flip
Flip
it over
for,
and
yeah.
hit a forehand. If you've never seen that shot before, you are never getting the first one back. But if
Good
I've
point.
seen that shot once before, I feel like I've got a pretty decent chance at getting that back if I sort of thought about what happened there.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
So like the little
So,
things in terms of like watching the ball height, right? So like for example, letting an out ball go. Like one pattern you could recognize is if they hit that last ball out, is they try to hit a dumb flick when the ball was just below net height, and that's just their timing of their counter is not going to be there. So you know to take a step back on that shot based off how it last occurred. And then same thing for the Kyle shot, just knowing, okay, you saw him go down the line because of his foot took a wider step out wide. You saw his footwork, you're analyzing paddle angles, things like that. So then now this time you know to just cover line a little bit better and then slide to get backhand ready per se, just in terms of examples of what you brought up.
yeah, I would say, like, again, it just goes into learning and being curious. Be
Hmm.
curious how the point ended, right? Like, what exactly happened there? And the reason that I say point end is because it's impossible to uh, go through all 10 shots in a given point. You'll get all of those things mixed up. You have plenty of data points available just by the last shot or two in a point. Um, so those are two examples: letting out balls go, or the
Yeah.
Kyle, or whatever. But every single time a point ends, you should be asking yourself, what just happened?
What are the most common patterns that you're seeing then? So obviously the Kyle, it's going to be something that's going to catch you off guard. But what are some common things that you recognize on the court that you see often that gives you that edge to, maybe get a proper counter in or proper angles and really set yourself up for success? Is there, what's the most common thing?
Um, I would say, I guess this is a good piece of advice for people listening. So I mean, there's a lot of things. If I had to pick one, I would say pattern being, people ask me how you anticipate. Again, that's all
Hmm.
along the same
Hmm.
lines. A pattern I would say that's very hard to disguise is speed up speed. It's easy to do these little misdirects or a Kyle shot or whatever. It's very easy to make a last second adjustment in paddle angle and pull
Yeah.
the ball one direction or another. So I actually don't know how much you can anticipate spots um, based on paddle preparation. But what you can anticipate with some certainty is speeds, right? It is so much more difficult to disguise how hard you're hitting than
Hmm.
where you're hitting. Um, So that's one of a million patterns that I'm, looking at and
Yeah.
don't have to think about anymore. But I guess for the people listening, look to the paddle, not to try and read their paddle as to where they're going, because if this is a podcast for advanced level players, every player you're playing against probably disguises their shots pretty well, right?
Hmm.
Nobody is there like, oh, I'm going to go down the line now. Everybody's disguising their spots pretty well, but what they can't disguise nearly as well is their pace.
Love that. Well, let's dive into the pace side of things. So, what do you look for adding that element of deception to your game, leveraging like off speed, speed ups, off speed, out of the air, off the bounce, things like that, drives? Are you using that often? That's something I'm personally not leveraging that much. The more I'm thinking about it, and I need to be doing that for my own game. But how often are you bringing that to your game and at high level play?
Yeah, well, I mean, something that I'm actively working on, and I think pretty much everybody is actively working on, is trying to make every single ball look like you can speed it up, right? Meaning, like, if I'm sitting there open face every single time, and then all of a sudden I've got all right, two hands on the paddle. All right, my opponents know, like, okay, something's probably coming, or I got to be ready.
Yeah.
Something that makes somebody like Hayden Patriquin so
I was
tricky to play
just going to
against.
say Hayden as the example for this is because, and I always talk about this, not to cut you off. It's that triple threat position that I call it. And I don't know if other people do as well. It's like he sits there, he gets that paddle tip down, he gets to the ball so quick, stops, holds the dink, and you have no idea where that ball is going next. But yeah, that's the exact example I was going to bring up, somebody that's doing that so well.
Exactly. So deceptive. And, if you're paddle tip up and looking to dink, your opponents can relax, or they can reach in and try and gain an advantage and take the next ball out of the air. If you're paddle tip down and in good position, your opponents have no idea whether it's another dink or whether it's a speed up. So something that I'm working on is I'll call it triple threat too. I like that idea.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Getting to triple thread on as many dinks as possible, and that just adds that deception. If you are in that same triple threat position every single time, your opponents don't know whether you're speeding up or dinking every single time.
Exactly. And then my focus for getting that to that position is getting my, like, if the ball's out right, I'm getting my right leg behind that ball. If the ball's out left, I'm getting my left leg behind the ball. And I think that's also why we're seeing such a change in the meta of pickleball, of especially when that comes to the backhand side. So often that's just the safe chop slice dink that we see so common. But now we talk about this a lot on this episode or this pod as well, is the backhand roll, because when you get in that position, you get loaded really low, like Connor Garnett or Fu or Ignatowicz, where they're sitting there low. You don't know if they're going to be rolling. You don't know if they're going to take it and roll down the line. And we've seen players like Ben adapt to this too. Do you see the game going to a point where 90% of dinks on the left side for a right-handed player are going to be in that loaded roll position almost every time? Or do you see maybe there's some players that are going to want to be slicing everything still? Like, what's the meta look like in the coming year, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see more and more players go to that loaded position. Like the way that the way that I sort of teach it is option one is to reach in and try and take the ball out of the air, so long as it's in your range, right? Don't take it off of your shoelaces, but if it's in your range, you want to try and take that ball out of the air and do something with it if possible. If not, and you still have time, you want to go for that two-handed backhand. But the two-handed backhand gets a little bit more difficult to execute if that ball is pushed back behind you.
Yeah.
So option one is backhand out of the air. Option two is two hands off the bounce. Option three is that last most passive defensive open face slice shot.
Oh, okay.
So even then, I think I would prefer a drop step and slice to a short hop. I think short hop is option last.
I know,
it's
that's
option
where I get
four, if any.
caught the most. And it's like, it's hard to, when it's coming in hot and then you realize you're a little bit too late, that's when I go to that short hop position, even though I don't want to be there, because there's no action you can put on that ball. And you're not able to create high percentage margins with that short hop either. It's just going to be that backboard shot. Whereas, like you said, at least if you're going to go to that third step, that slice, you can at least get the angles and the pace that you want on that ball to go high margin over the net, and then land in at a shallow zone where you can't really dictate that with that short hop, which is so tough.
Yeah, and I think on a backhand short hop, you're pretty much limited to inside foot of the. If you're on the left side, your backhand short hop is pretty much limited to right up the line, which you don't want to go to because everybody's going to jump when you've got a backhand that you're bumping right up the line, or the inside foot of the person in front of you. It's very difficult to short hop backhand all the way back to that cross court. So again, all of this is about attempting to give yourself as many angles as you can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we got on the short hop to conversation, but yeah, don't try not to short hop as much as you can.
That's a good point. That's the biggest takeaway there. Yeah, that's the biggest problem I have in my game is on that left side there. I have the same grip as Riley Newman, so I'm playing very full Western. So when I do get caught on the left side there, it's hard to really hit the safe dink and when you get pulled out wide. But yeah, it's just an interesting part of the game of terms of like, where things are moving and the direction of the sport. So I'm curious to see where that's going to go and how many players are going to be adopting that. Because as you see with the junior players, they're all just loading those backhands and rolling them constantly in that triple threat position, which is crazy to see. The junior players are nuts. And I know you've seen a lot of them and played with a lot of them, but it's crazy.
They're all so much twitchier than us, right? There's so much more fast twitch, compact strokes, like Hayden, really. So wait, I want to ask you some questions because I didn't know you had the Riley Newman grip.
Same grip.
Are you rolling almost all two-handers, or do you ever slice the backhand?
I slice it a lot. It just depends on the height of the ball. I'm actually really trying to drill and develop my backhand roll way more now, where I'm going to start doing that. My 2026 goal is to hit almost every single ball that way and get really low and really loaded. I'm really passive when I get pulled out wide. So that's my biggest con right now is that section of having a consistent tournament mode where I can just roll all day long. I feel like I can in rec, but when it gets to a tournament, I lose the confidence a little bit. So I'll do more of like the down the line bunts, kind of like what you're referring to, just the safe shot there and hoping they're not earning. But yeah, that's where I get limited in that spot.
So, okay. I've always wondered this, and I've talked to Riley about this, but I have been so high on the tomahawk shot, right?
I was going to bring this up because you're the one that taught me this years ago, and not yourself from a video, because you were one of the only people to really do videos on the tomahawk. And I realized how effective it is. I'm starting to pull tomahawks below the net now, and I'm scooping them. That's the only way I can put pressure out of the air on my backhand side is from tomahawking. So what's his name? Yuta. And I played against Yuta in a tournament, and him and Toma, I think, is that right?
Tama.
Thank you, Tama. And Yuta was doing that to me, and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, okay, so this is doable. I know I can do it. I was afraid to really like dive into that and see how effective of a shot that would be if it was just gimmicky. I'm realizing how not gimmicky it is and how effective it truly is. So it's been really fun the last 6 months incorporating that in my game and being able to flick out of the air, earning tomahawk. I'm just lacking a little bit of power on a full put away. That's when I'll just go backhand tui. I've seen you rip your tomahawks for put aways. So I need to find a way to snap my wrist a little bit more. But yeah, it's tomahawk's a blast. And I really see that being a niche meta in the game where some people, are really starting to open on that because you get more room, as you showed.
Yeah.
Backhand flick, you're here. That tomahawk, you get an extra 4 inches more. And as my girlfriend says, that's a lot. So that extra reach is huge.
Every inch counts, baby.
Every inch counts, Zane. It's so important. So yeah, the extra reach that you get in the kitchen is just it's super helpful as well. And it's so easy to deceive people because people have no idea where that ball is going because it looks so weird.
Well, yeah, especially you though too, because that's why I asked, because the toughest part about a Western forehand grip, or even semi-Western, is that it's very hard to close up the paddle face and hit a one-hander out of the air. You really have to do a lot of work. You're almost closer to being able to hit it with the other side of the paddle in that tomahawk situation. Like when I hit a tomahawk, I know this isn't a carbon paddle, but I got to demonstrate.
Oh God!
You can't even see what type of paddle it is. It is a Pro XR paddle. When I'm in a tomahawk position, this is my normal grip. This is continental. Mm-hmm. So I actually have to change my grip around to be able to hit that. Whereas you're here already and can just go right up the back of the ball to begin with. So I honestly feel like if Riley really grinded that, he'd be back in the top 5.
That's what I was thinking too, and that's why I was actually bringing up his name. Is if I feel like if he dove in on the backhand roll dink, whereas a lot of his are the passive short hops for most of his. I mean, his defense is insane, so he could play defensive all day long, but he's not applying the pressure on that shot. So that, along with the tomahawk aspect, would be terrifying. And then I would train with Lindsay Newman quite a bit when I was in Arizona, and she has it too. So she kind of showed me how effective it is as well. So it's interesting to see, because it's, like I said, it's really hard to read where the ball's going.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
all right. Well, we went down a rabbit hole on grips there, but I like it.
Great rabbit hole.
Great rabbit hole. Let's dive back into the IQ side of the game. So another thing that I wanted to chat about was like probabilities, expected value, and like that pro math side of the game. So when you're looking at a rally, like what probabilities are you calculating subconsciously? Are you really thinking about this on every shot you hit? Like my shot percentage on a drive versus a drop, and risk versus reward. I'd love to go dive into this section as well.
Yeah, so I guess something I've been thinking about a lot lately is relative values, right? So let's say you're playing against Ben Johns, right? And you're dinking cross court with him, right? Let's say you're playing skinny singles cross court. What is your chance of winning that dink rally, just out grinding Ben?
2%.
2%
at best,
right? 2%. And so something that I see frequently is players think that they should initiate a strategy if they have a better than 50% chance of it working. And that's not accurate. It needs to be better than your alternative. It doesn't need to be better than 50%. So if you're going cross court with Ben and you've got a 2% chance of winning that rally, but speeding up gives you a 5% chance of winning that rally, you want to speed up every single opportunity that you can, even though it's still not going to win you more points, right? So thinking about actually relative odds is important. And this is super important in especially with some serving strategy, right? 42.5% of points are won by servers approximately in the pro game, right? So
wait, from the serving team, you mean 42? Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
So receiving teams win 58.5% of the points, or 57.5% of points, whatever that is. So when you are expected to win, let's just say 42% of points to be easier on the math, if you can find a strategy that wins you slightly less than 50% of points on serve, that's a strategy that you want to go for all day, right? So there are certain cases like that, right?
Yeah.
If you're a big underdog, you got to play the relative odds on shots, not necessarily the absolute odds.
That makes sense. And how do you develop those odds? Is it based off your opponents, leaning into your strengths, a combination of both? Like how do you do that? Let's say you're going into your next PPA match and you're going into quarterfinals against a good team. How do you implement this strategy in real time?
Yeah. So again, going back to some of the stuff that I've talked about, I kind of understand my percentages for the most part because I'm always curious about how a point ends, right? And so I know when I speed up to this position, most of the time on this type of ball, it works, whatever that might be. Most of the time it goes back over there, whatever, right? So I've got an understanding of my game. That doesn't change too much. I have a decent understanding of everybody else that I play against in the pro game.
So you're analyzing like their shot percentage on every backhand dink, their shot percentage in theory, like as a relative average that you can get of their third shot drive versus their backhand third, for example. So you're always thinking about those things as well, right?
Yeah, I think you're trying to build a profile. Like, all right, is this somebody that I think I'm going to win 60% of dink rallies against? It's knowing yourself. It's knowing a little bit or enough about them. But you can have all of the percentages figured out to a T at the beginning of a match, but you also have to make some of these in-match adjustments when things go wrong. And so that's where you have to ask yourself, all right, if I'm down 0-5, am I actually doing something incorrect, or have I kind of gotten bad luck? How
Hmm.
many stretches do you see where you've hit two net cords that, you know, go into your side of the net that were good attacks? They hit two net cords and, whatever, right? There are these stretches of matches that happen where even if you flip a coin, it's supposed to be 50-50, but you can get 5 heads in a row. That does not mean that you need to change your coin flipping strategy. It's bound to come back around at some
Yeah.
point. But I do feel like people are super, super reactive when something doesn't work. They're outcome focused, not necessarily the input focused. So complicated sort of stuff. It's nothing that I can say to you right now that's like, here's exactly how you do it. It's understanding your own game,
Yeah.
understanding your opponent's game. And there's an element of feel like, all right, we're going backhand to backhand, and they just hit a dink like this, and, it manages to go over and they win the point. That does not mean that going backhand to backhand is the wrong strategy. It
It's just a
means,
lucky coin
all right,
flip.
they flipped the coin and they got lucky that time.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. No, that makes a lot of sense in terms of building that out over time and just being patient, and the law of averages will naturally work itself out. But it comes down to what you said earlier. It's asking yourself these questions and constantly staying curious every single point, even when not during the point like you said, but when the point stops, ask why, ask what, ask where, ask how, and then you're able to develop this the more you play. And do you do this in rec as well, or are you doing this mainly at high level tournament play? Like, I'm sure you're asking yourself this when you do rec too, not when you're just like goofing off, but like when you're having high level rec games at least.
Yeah, no, you have to in rec play. And like you said, goofing off is a great way to actually obscure your own percentages from yourself, right? When you're just goofing around, you're trying new stuff, which is fine. Trying new stuff is great. That's how
Yeah.
you understand what you can and can't do. But
Hmm.
playing less than 100% is actually going to help you to lose understanding in what actually works and doesn't work for you. So
Yeah.
something that's super important is trying to, everybody says practice like you play, right? But how do you actually do that? One thing that I do is I'm, maybe I'm a little bit of a psycho, but for every match I lose or every practice game I lose, I'll have some amount of push-ups that I have to do or some amount of biking I have to do. And so that way, every time I go onto the court, I'm in that competitive setting.
I
And
like
if
that.
you bring that all the way back to our conversation from the beginning, then when the pressure's on in a real match, you can thrive. You can remain
Yeah.
calm because you've put this pressure on yourself every single day through your practice.
That's true. Yeah, because when you get in that tournament mode and you don't have that many tournament reps, they're not playing as many tournaments as you per se, it really just changes everything when you get there and you're not used to having that different edge that's on the court and that different feeling of that competitive nature. If you're not practicing under that consistently, you're not going to be ready. Me and my buddy, when games would get stale, sometimes you're playing for a while and things would get, people start goofing off more and you're not taking it seriously. We'd start making bets, putting San Diego
Yeah.
Cali burritos on the line. And that just changed the game. When there's a burrito on the line, everything elevates. We're back into tournament mode. So, I mean, my tip is, start making some fun bets with your friends on the courts. It really changes things. Add push-ups like you're doing. I love that. I think all those little things, they're fun. It makes it more of a blast. You're getting better reps and it's just a way to add some exciting layers to it.
Oh yeah, one of our favorites is when stuff starts to get sloppy, you get butts up on the line. Butts up.
Yes, I've seen some good
Oh yeah.
videos of you doing that. It's they're always entertaining.
Oh
I've still
yeah.
never done. I've done it like once in pickleball, but I need to do it more.
It's less about how much getting hit in the butt by a pickleball hurts and more just about the humiliation element of it.
Hmm.
So nice little double-edged sword
Who do you
there.
usually beat up the most in Austin when you're playing butts up?
I mean, I feel like we got such a good crew over there at
It's a
the
good
lab. I
crew.
don't, you know, I'd say the normal crew is like Carlos and Carlos Delora, Johnson Cola, Wyatt Stone, Hunter and Yates Johnson come to town every once in a while,
Oh,
or
nice.
come to town every once in a while because they're in San Marcos, which is like 45 minutes away. Deckel, he's been out for a little while, but he's back now. So who do I kind of own? I'm actually Wyatt Stone's father.
You're his father. I love it. We're clipping this and sending that to him just so he can. I'm sure he already knows, but just so he can see it again.
Yeah.
He knows.
He knows.
Okay. Well, one of the other things I wanted to cover on the probabilities and the expected value side that we didn't touch on was like risk versus reward, and knowing when to take risks and when not to take risks. We discussed a little bit of that in terms of like, based off the other person's shot percentage and what you're developing throughout a match. But how do you build that yourself in terms of knowing when to go like heavy risk on a serve, heavy risk on a return? And also curious, this is a two-parter, where the game is going in 2026 as well, with risk and reward on a lot of these shots, whether it's, drives, returns, serves, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the risk or reward conversation is it's super tied into understanding your percentages.
Yeah.
I'll give a fun little example of risk versus reward. When I first started playing, I was fresh out of my accounting days at Deloitte. And so I was like crunching numbers on all the different matches that I would play. And this is also like during chainsaw time. So I started.
Glory days.
Whoa. My glory days are ahead of me, Brodie. Come on, bro. Just kidding. But I found something super interesting. I was tracking a bunch of different stats and whatnot, and I was curious about exactly, how much risk I should be hitting on the serve. And so I started wondering, like, should I go for an ace every single time on my serve? So started collecting some stats on it. I found something super interesting. I was more likely to win my match when I missed more than 10% of my serves than when I missed less than 10% of my serves.
I like that because you're going heavier.
You're going heavier. So like, that's an example of something that's no longer legal as well. But there are also some down the road consequences to think about, some implications of some of these different things, right? Such as speed ups. I don't actually think your speed ups need to work more than 50% of the time, because
interesting.
If you are a player, like, all right, let's say your speed up percentage is 49%. So you decide, all right, I'm not a good speeder upper. I'm not going to speed up.
I like that.
So I'm just not going to speed up. Well, then your opponent is just going to dictate the entire time, and they can wait for forever, and they can lean in. And then while you're not missing from your speed ups, you're probably losing most of the dink rallies because you're missing dinks into the net, or they're speeding the ball up off of you. So I'd say, like, you don't have to, some of the shots that you hit don't have to be successful percentage wise in a vacuum, because you have to understand the implications of every other element. Right?
Love that.
Hayden is a perfect example. These full bags that he's hitting is a perfect example.
I was just about to bring up bagging too. Yeah.
He's maybe 50-50 on it. Let's say 50-50, right? On full bags. Well, all right. This one shot, whether he makes it or whether he misses it, impacts how his opponent is going to play every single point for the rest of the match. When they're on their heels, or even taking 6 inches off of the line, 6 inches is actually a lot. All right,
that's a ton. I couldn't imagine.
6 inches is actually a ton.
Yeah.
All right, let's say he loses that one full bag attempt. Every single point for the rest of the match, that other player's percentages have gone down, let's say 3% across the board. So that's the most egregious and clear example to me of your shot doesn't have to work every single time.
Yeah, it's an element of fear and just the whole mindset shift of the match. That's huge. I think that's a really good point. Just because it doesn't mean it's over 50%, like you said, there's more implications. So I think that's really well said. And this is a question I get a lot too when coaching is, and I always have a different answer every time I give it, I feel like, is what percentages at the most average blanket level of third shot drives should you be making versus third shot drops that you should be making on your thirds? Like, what should that look like for your average player?
Interesting.
I mean, I guess for you, like, how many drops are you hitting where you're able to work into the kitchen and it's not, it's a successful drop in your mind? And then how many successful drives are you getting in without an absolute put away or in the net or too long? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. I mean, all of these things are probably in comparison to your winner rate as well, right? So let's say if I told you I'm missing 40% of my drives, you'd say that's horrible. But the other 60% are winners, you'd say, oh, okay, never mind. That's amazing.
Good point.
So it is relative to the positive outcomes.
Yeah. Because it depends too on a passive drop versus a heavy, crazy third shot dipping drop that's going cross court too. Like the percentages there. Yeah, they all have different, implications from that side as well, which is a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say I think a good, for the most part, if I had to give a generalization on percentages, which I don't really like to do, but if I had to, it would be, I'd say if you're missing more than, maybe 15% of drops and drives, you should probably take a little less risk, but understand that statement comes with the asterisk that I just put on it beforehand.
So you said 15% roughly?
I'd say 15%. Yeah.
Okay. That's a good rule of thumb. I like that. Well, I think we're getting pretty. I feel like we got to do a follow-up episode. There's still so much that I wanted to discuss, but we're pretty high in time. I wanted to.
Dude, I love nerding out. Like,
this is great.
Anytime. Like, this is the type of stuff that if I posted on my YouTube channel would get a single view, right? Like, this is the tip of the pickleball like iceberg of players that are into this type of stuff. But also, this gets me way more fired up than teaching the same exact thing to a 3-0 that is dinking like this.
That's a good risk strategy there. Of course.
Not to say that there's not some value and some like fulfillment, but I like the this type of tip of the iceberg conversation.
Okay, we're having you on more than this is great. Well, it gives Tanner some breaks as well, so we can really dive into this. But the other thing I wanted to chat about was and give you a plug for this. I saw you launched Transition Zone Pickleball recently. Can you tell us more about that? I didn't look into it too much, but it looks awesome in terms of having packages for different levels of players to help them improve their game, which is great.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that shout. This actually came about. I had been approached by like a bunch of different groups wanting to do online courses behind a paywall. And I was like, that feels just like I'm taking money. Like, I'm not going to do that because I want to provide value to people. And so I always said no. And then I started to realize that I was actually contradicting myself in some of my teaching, right? As I've put out such a high volume of YouTube videos, I started getting more and more comments confused saying like, hey, Zane, you said this previously, but now you're saying this. I'm like, we can take, I use the example of wrist as an example. Don't use your wrist. That sounds like pretty good advice. Except for when you get up to a 4-0 plus level, well, all right, maybe you need to follow through and your wrist naturally comes through. Or, at the pro level, every shot is using a little bit of wrist. Same thing with don't change your grip. Amazing advice for somebody who's starting out. There are times where you want to change your grip at a high level. So I found myself even within my own YouTube videos, contradicting some of my own advice. And so I realized a fundamental problem with YouTube videos is how do they actually apply to you and your skill level?
Smart.
And so we have a completely different curriculum for 3-0s. We have a completely different curriculum for 3-5s and a completely different curriculum for 4-0s because those are completely different players. The advice is to work through all of it and understand the progression. But if you just came to my YouTube channel and you found my last video about, cross court attacks, 90% of people on YouTube, that's bad advice for, right? I'm giving bad advice for most people, but that's a great advice for somebody who is at the 5-0 plus level to keep the cross court person honest.
100%.
Yeah, that's probably a long-winded way. I appreciate
No,
you letting me shout out, but
of course, it looks like
yeah.
great content. So, I mean, clearly that's very valuable because all coaching for whenever I'm coaching, depending on the level, I'm going to change my answer entirely. It all matters. Like the wrist example is the perfect example. Like 95% of the people I'm teaching, I'm saying no wrist, except for, when we're doing a put away, maybe a little bit of a flick type shot, but that's when we're only doing higher level coaching. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. But I'm excited to look into the content more, and that's going to be cool once that's that's already out.
So we're actually pre-launch right now. We filmed over 200 videos last week.
Oh my God.
And
it's exhausting.
they're very, very bite-sized as well, right?
Well,
like I want to solve one problem at a time. YouTube, you have to make a 10-minute video for the algorithm to take it anywhere, right?
True.
I wanted to be like, this is a minute and a half on this one element of dinking technique for a 3-0 player. I wanted to get that in the weeds on that. So it's transition zone pickleball. We're in our pre-launch right now. We are going to be launching, actually moving our timeline up. I think we're going to be, actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know for sure. The goal is to have some videos published in December, but the official launch date is early January next year. We're hoping to give a little bonus before then.
I was going to say, I think this episode will be airing around early January anyway. So timing, if you're listening to this now, hopefully it's out. Go check it out. The site is tzpickleball.com, and then we'll see. So
yeah, appreciate that, Brodie.
Of course. All right. Well, let's transition out here. I think we covered a lot of things. I had so many more other things that I wanted to cover in terms of the high IQ side of the game, which was obviously really great to discuss. But like I said, since you love drama, you're kind of the pickleball drama queen right now in the best way possible with all the news you're giving.
I'll take it.
I have some rapid fire questions for you. They're not really that rapid fire. They're kind of all over the place. Some of the questions kind of suck. Some of them are great. All right, let's start. You're currently ranked number 24 in PPA men's doubles. Just ahead of you is Tyler Leung at 23, Connor Garnett at 22, and James Ignatowicz at 21. Are those rankings accurate, or are you better than those three, or any of those three? How would you adjust those rankings there?
Oh, interesting. So for power ranking, I think each one of those guys has, I think Ignatowicz has the highest ceiling. I think Connor has probably the most consistent PPA results. I think Tyler and Connor play really, really well together. Yeah. So I think I mold better with most partners than those guys, but yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna come out here and say I need to be ranked ahead of those guys. So
yeah, Connor and Tyler are probably one of the most fun teams to watch, by the way, in my opinion. I think watching them is a blast. They're electric out there.
They're just so scrappy.
They're scrappy. They make some crazy plays. All right, this might be one you want to pass on. Who's the most overrated player right now?
Ooh, most overrated. Nah, I don't want to pass on stuff. Ooh, actually, Nico the Lefty on Twitter made a good point. Jay DeVilliers used to be the most overrated player for a little bit of time because he was flashy, and then he actually got to now a super underrated player. He's pretty consistently making quarters in just about everything, falling off the radar. So,
do you know why that is?
Oh, did he switch to a carbon?
He's been playing carbon. He's been using the carbon waves. And ever since he made that switch, this is what's been happening. You said it, not me, but that's a good point.
There we go. Did I get my appearance fee?
You got your appearance fee. Checked. Done. Next awesome. Question.
No, that's a great adjustment. Good for Jay. And
he's killing it.
I work with ProXR, but like the paddle fit for the person is super, super important. Jay fits with carbon. Somebody else might fit with Yola. Somebody might fit with ProXR, right? Finding that fit is super, super important.
100%. Next question. Who's taller, you or Big H?
Come on. I'm taller than Big H.
By a lot?
He's like, what is he, like 5'7"?
People are asking. Okay, next one. If you are on a 10-hour flight overseas, what PPA pros would you least want to be stuck between? And you're in the middle seat.
Oh, shit. Who do I least want to be? The Alhoni brothers.
Oh my God.
Easy.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Okay, what will happen first? A, Jack Sock gets a singles gold medal, or B, Jack Sock gets a men's doubles bronze or better.
Oh, singles medal. He's knocking on the door, especially with the lifetime ball playing more like a tennis ball.
Yeah.
He's lost weight and is like seemingly in good shape, and also like now yelling "come on" every once in a while. Like he
Didn't
cares.
see that before. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He cares. He's playing good ball. I think the boomstick has helped him from the piece of cardboard that he was using before that. Yeah, Jack Sock singles for sure. He is, I think, quite far off in men's doubles.
Gotcha.
Or at least
Good
the
point.
book is out on him. With the right
Yeah.
partner, like I liked him playing with Blaine a lot. It allows him to be creative, but I don't see the team of Blaine and Jack medaling soon.
It's tough. It's tough out there. Just the field's so deep. Speaking of tough players to play against, Ben and Annalie are obviously the two goats of pickleball on the men's and the women's side. Will we ever see anyone pass them from either the accolades perspective or just from the skill perspective? Like, will anybody surpass either of those two in the next couple decades?
From a skill perspective, 1,000%.
Yeah,
like we're not even close to a solved game here. So I think both of them would probably acknowledge like they're going to get past in a skill sense at some point or another. Like you can
100%.
look at dominant tennis players over the years. Like you can
It's
talk
every
about
sport.
Rod Laver going,
I was going to say, it's like, there's a delay there. Sorry. I was going to say, yes, to your point, like every sport, it's just like, no matter what, progression is just going to happen where, just basketball, for example, LeBron James compared to players in the 40s, like it's just an absolute joke. So, I mean, this is the early stage, the baby stage of pickleball. Who knows where we're going to be in decades from now is I think what you were alluding to at least.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think without a doubt, skill levels, they'd get past at some point or another. But as this game gets more competitive, I honestly think that they're putting up title numbers that are probably never going to be seen again. 100 and what is that, like 165 or something for Annalie at this point, right?
Yeah,
that is numbers that is crushing Federer, Nadal, Djokovic titles, and she also is 18 years old. So I think when pickleball is a solved sport, I don't think you're ever going to have somebody who wins more titles than Annalie Waters.
Yeah.
And Ben John's probably too.
I think so as well. They're just it's insane what they've done. So yeah, Annalie, definitely impossible. Ben, it's like almost possible, but I doubt it. Okay, next question. People have been calling your recent grandpa hairstyle, hair looks great right now, but your recent grandpa hairstyle, the worst on tour. Who do you think has the best hair on tour?
Wait, so when I grew my hair out, yeah, that was a bad look. That was my wife's fault. Normally she's right about just about everything, but she was off.
That was her doing?
She had a vision that did not pan out. So, there's probably elements of me, not fully cooperating and not using conditioner and stuff like that. And she really doesn't like my 3-in-1, shampoo. But who has the best hair? Dude, I missed the Tyson mullet. That was electric.
Tyson mullet was good.
The Tyson mullet was beautiful. I like a cleanly shaven AJ Kohler bald head.
Okay, I like it.
Let's see, somebody who rocks the bald look. I'd go with mullet Tyson, shaved AJ. Will Howells is kind of taking on the mullet flow look now. So we'll go Willie.
All right. Second to last question. I think this is the second to last is which pro player romantic relationship caught you the most by surprise?
I had no idea that Georgia and Jonathan Trong were dating. So that one caught me off guard.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
is that a recent development?
Maybe it was like 6 months ago or so.
Okay. All right. So that's number one, though. Nothing else?
Nothing else.
Okay.
Nothing else that I know about. I'm actually like I'm very, very in the know of everything that goes on. I'm like the last person to find out about any sort of gossip stuff, to be honest, because I don't care that much.
Yeah. So you got okay, that makes sense. All right. Last question is Tanner and I have been debating or going back and forth and talking shit about playing skinny singles. He thinks that I won't score more than 3 points against him. We haven't been able to play yet. We keep wanting to do a challenge, him versus me. He set that line at 3.5. If me and you are playing skinny singles, what are you setting the line at for the score of what I would get against you?
Dude, I don't know anything about your game.
I was about to say, I don't
honestly,
think you know my game.
like, but if Tanner's getting 3.5, if you're getting 3.5 against Tanner, you're getting 3 against me for sure.
Okay. Well, then how about you and Tanner? What would the final score? Well, if you and Tanner were to play skinnies, what would the score be?
Dude, I honestly don't know too much about Tanner's game either. I know he's lefty. I know he's playing well. I'd love to play against him sometime. Maybe that's a cop out answer, but
that's a fair answer. I mean, you haven't seen him play a ton lately. You know, APP side is a lot different than the PPA side. But yeah, we'll have to film a match. I guarantee I'll be getting more than 3, but we'll make this happen one day. Next time I'm in Texas or next time you're in SoCal, we'll be filming this, and I can't wait.
All right, deal. Well, Brodie, appreciate you having me, man. Thank you.
Zane, it was a pleasure. Can't wait to make this happen again. Thank you so much for coming on. Absolute blast, and we'll stay in touch, dude. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
All right, see ya.